Good evening. I think we should be live now. I am trying a new streaming setup here, so let me know how it looks and if you can hear me. This is the first time streaming from the new studio, so yeah. How's everyone doing tonight? Thank you for joining me. We are finally going to be discussing our plans for going to Japan. So Danielle and I are going to Japan on the 25th. Yes, 25th of August for 26 days. So that'll be our 26-day journey across Japan. Now, as you'll see in front of me, there's a number of items that we'll talk about. But basically, I wanted to kind of give a bit of advice for people who are planning to go to Japan through the lens of what are we planning to do. So this will be the stream tonight. I have a bunch of talking points. I have a bunch of things I'm going to share with you. Yes, the cherry blossom tree. So I see a number of things on the table here. And yeah, so Daniela finished this. It's not Lego; it's a knockoff Lego cherry blossom tree, and so that's on the stream there. I should start off by saying absolutely nothing I'm going to talk about on the stream tonight is sponsored. Nobody sponsors a YouTube channel that has less than 1,000 subscribers. So if you would like the stream, subscribe if you liked it, all that good stuff. Share it with your friends. That would be really appreciated as well. So I'm shouting out as well. I don't know him from Adam, but I watch his YouTube channel. So Chris Broad has recently this week just launched his book, Abroad in Japan, covering 10 years of his journey in Japan and starting his YouTube channel and all the people that he's met. So that will be my entertainment on the flight, likely going there if I don't finish it between now and then. There's sort of 3 weeks to go. So yeah, if you haven't seen the Abroad in Japan channel, check it out. Shout out to Chris Broad. I've got a lot of the ideas for our journey to Japan from the content that Chris has done on his channel. So shout out to Chris, and yeah, the least I could do for the hours and hours and hours of entertainment I've had watching his channel is give him about £15 for a book. I think I actually got it discounted on Amazon because I pre-ordered it early. So I cheated you out a couple of quid, Chris, but you probably won't mind because you're #1 bestseller now. So congratulations on that. So yeah, let's just get going. So we're going to split the stream up into kind of 3 sections, but maybe 4 Q&A at the end. I want to do must-dos, what you have to know and do before you go. Before leaving your home country and going to Japan, that'll be the first section we'll cover. Then we'll move on to when you arrive. So what should you do in the first few hours when you're in the airport. Make sure your arrival is as smooth as possible. And then I'll go on and discuss some of the things that we're going to be doing in Japan and things to bear in mind when you are in Japan as well. So we'll jump into it, and then we'll finish up with Q&A, at which point I'll interact more with the chat. I will be looking at the laptop occasionally as I bring up web pages to show you and things like this. But yeah, I'm going to try and leave interaction with chat unless I see a really good question that's pertinent. I'll interact with chat at the end. So let's go. So the first thing you should do before you go is, I actually didn't bring this up, but there's a web app called Visit Japan Web, and if you've ever travelled to a country basically outside of the EU, you have to fill out all these immigration forms on the plane normally, and they can be quite complicated to fill out and quite long and lengthy. What Japan did during the coronavirus pandemic was they released a web app called Visit Japan Web, where you can pre-populate all of your immigration information, and then you're just presented with a couple of QR codes. So one is for immigration, I think the other one's for customs. So they had the third one for the vaccination status, but you no longer have to worry about that. There's no vaccine requirements anymore. There's no testing required before you come into the country either. So no worry about that, but do Visit Japan Web because it will help you get through immigrations and customs a lot faster when you get there. I also recommend taking screenshots of your QR codes because if you're in the airport and the airport Wi-Fi is overloaded with thousands of passengers, you may not be able to get your QR codes. It is a web app after all. So take screenshots of your QR codes before you leave the ground, in my example from the UK. So then you've got them, and then you'll get through immigration and custom, no problem. So visit Japan Web, first thing to make sure you do before you leave the UK. Second one is to get the Japan Rail Pass. Now, this is only really relevant, like for us, for example, we're going over a lot of the main island of Japan, and so if you're going to be using the Shinkansen a lot, you want to get the Japan Rail Pass. So this is actually the Japan Rail Pass exchange voucher. So this is not the pass itself. When you get to the airport, we have to exchange this, but I'll cover that in the second section. But you have to buy this outside of the country. And so we upgraded from our 2020 pass, which was a 14-day standard class pass, we went for the 21-day green pass. And because the value of the yen is so low compared to the value of the pound right now, it was about £300 combined extra on top of the 2020 standard pass, which was about £700, to go from 14 days to 21 days and upgrade to the green car. So the green car is, think of it as the first class car, but there is an additional class above that called the Grand class, which is like for the uber wealthy and is not included in the Japan Rail Pass. But yeah, Japan Rail Pass is really useful if you're going to be taking the Shinkansen between a number of different cities. Now, from the 1st of October, and I'm going to start sharing some websites now, from the 1st of October, the price of the rail passes are going up, so it may not be worth your while getting it. So you can see here, this is the USD price right now. I could set this probably to pound. I should have done this in advance. GBP, here we go. Right, prices for the Japan Rail Passes. So standard right now for 21 days on the standard was 344, and the green pass was 475. The green pass, what does that offer you? It's wider, more comfortable seats. It's a greater reclining angle on the seat. You get a footrest, more peace and quiet, larger windows. I think in some Shinkansens they'll also come and offer you some free drinks, which will be nice. But mainly for us, it's like we're going in a very busy time of year, 3 years after Japan locked down. So this is the first year that Japan's been open for 3 years. It's going to be really busy, and so we kind of figured going with the green class should give us a better chance of being able to reserve a seat and actually getting a seat on the trains that we want to go on, because there's no standing in the green class either. We'll cover reserving seats a little bit later on. That's something you do when you get to Japan, but you have to reserve all your seats in the green class. So other benefits, I say, that it mentions here is things like you might get some free drinks. It's more comfy seats. It's similar to first class in the UK, really, except I don't think you get any food. So that's the benefit of the green pass. But the thing I was mentioning is if you're planning to go to Japan after the end of this year, the rail pass may not be for you, because JR have announced that from the 1st of October they are increasing the price of the rail passes by sometimes up to 77% based on the prices they are today. So it may not be worth your while. It might be cheaper for you just to go to Japan and buy the passes for the trains, including the Shinkansens, that you need when you're there, because that's a hefty price increase. There are some details coming out now that it may include some of the trains that were not included in the rail pass that I have, but for the extra price, it's really not worth it, in my opinion. Now, if you buy the rail pass, you get 90 days to activate it. So on our rail passes, again, I can't show you the other side of it because that's personal information, but our rail passes are valid to be activated before the 20th of September. So you get 90 days to activate your rail pass, and then from then you can choose for its actual activation date, so the first day of the pass, to be within 30 days of the day you activate it. That said, if you buy the rail pass at the standard price of the last day of September, you're pretty much good till October, November, till the end of the year on the old pass. But you obviously won't get any of the privileges of the new pass if you buy one of the older passes. But if you want to save money and you are traveling this year, I recommend buying your exchange voucher before the 1st of October to not hit those up to 77% price hikes for doing that. Okay, so you've got your rail pass, and we'll talk about exchanging that in a second. The next thing you want to do is exchange some of your local currency into yen. When you get there, you're going to want to have some cash. Japan is a very cash-heavy society, and so I've got some example notes here. We've got the 1,000 yen note, the 2,000 yen note, the 5,000 yen note, and the 10,000 yen note. So, the exchange rate right now between the pound and the yen is very favourable. It's better to think about it as in pennies. That's the way I kind of do the math easy in my head. So 100 yen, which we would think of as equivalent to a pound, right now at the current exchange rate is worth 55 pence. So again, if I've gone and closed it. Sorry, I'll just bring it up here. GB, here we go. So if you look at this at 100 yen, 100 yen is 55 pence right now. So the exchange rate is very favourable for the pound. And I've just realised that I didn't switch back to the full camera view when I was showing you those notes. So let me do that again. Try to do this all on a different setup than what I'm used to. So I'll try again. Probably the same with the rail pass actually, but yeah, 1,000. 2,000. 5,000. And 10,000. So the way I do the math in my head to try to convert this to pounds is a little bit of fuzzy math, fuzzy logic, but essentially what I do is I take 2 zeros off the number. So let's do it with the 10,000. I take 2 zeros off the number, which gives me 100. And then I divide it by 2 because 55 is a hard number to divide by. I divide it by 2. So this is roughly now looking at, say, £50. And then I add a bit on. So I go 10,000 yen. That's probably going to be, well, I know it's £55, but in my head, I'll think of it as £60, for example. When I was going to go to Japan 3 years ago, so as you can see there, it's £55 and 34 pence. When I was going to be going to Japan 3 years ago, the exchange rate was much less favourable to the pound, and yeah, so you thought of it more closely, really, as 100 yen to 100 pennies. So essentially, yeah, like 1,000 yen would have been £10. Now it's give or take £6, £5.50. And so that's what we're thinking about there. So we've exchanged a bunch of money. And so in 2020, and this is what I'm going to make this example on this point a bit more. In 2020, we exchanged for 14 days. We exchanged about £2,500, and we got 347,000 yen for that. We actually exchanged that back to buy lucky between the last 3 years, but this year we're not taking all of the money in cash. We're going to have other ways of taking money out when we're over there. So we exchanged 2,000 yen this year in cash to take with us, and that got us 365,000 yen. So 3 years ago, £2,500, 347,000 yen. This year, £2,000, so £500 less, 365,000 yen. So that's just shy of 20,000 yen more for £500 less. That's a good thing in my head. Now, one thing to bear in mind is when you go into Japan and you're filling in the Visit Japan website, you're not allowed to bring in cash more than 1 million yen, which is approximately £5,500. So a million yen sounds like, oh, doesn't it? It's great, 1 million yen. You know, a millionaire in Japan. It's £5,500, which, don't get me wrong, is still a lot of money, but it's not £1 million. So as I say, we're taking in about £2,000 worth of yen, because for the total trip, the amount of money we're going to spend on the trip would actually exceed, or it's probably going to exceed 1 million yen, which we couldn't take in anyway. So one other thing I wanted to talk about in terms of money is make sure that you take a debit card or a credit card, or both, that don't charge you fees for spending in a foreign currency. So I've actually opened up a new bank account with a bank that charges me no fees, additional fees anyway, for spending in yen or withdrawing yen cash. Because it's a debit account, there's no fees for taking cash out as well of the ATMs. If you have a credit card, you can usually get a travel credit card that will not charge you any additional interest or any fees for spending on the card, but they will charge you interest if you withdraw cash on the credit card. So if you're taking a credit card to Japan with you, I recommend don't take cash out. Essentially, just try and do everything with card, but that's going to be difficult for you because Japan is a very cash-heavy society. So yeah, take cash with you then for maybe your spending money if you're going for a week or 2 weeks, and then take your credit card for any big purchases. We're going for 26 days, and we're going to spend a lot of it in cash. We've got a debit card we're going to be taking the money out for. So just bear that in mind as well, the debit card and credit card options. You can withdraw money at ATMs in Japan. I'll cover that in the next section. So the next thing I want to talk about taking with you, and you have to get this before you go, if you need one. This is an international driver's permit. So for Japan, your country needs to be part of the 1949 agreement on Convention of Road Traffic, 19th of September 1949. And you need an international driver's permit, along with your normal driving license and passport ID, to drive in Japan. So if you're planning on renting a car or doing the Tokyo karting experience, which is driving on the roads in Tokyo on a go-kart, similar to Mario, but no affiliation to Mario, then you need one of these. This costs about £5.50, in fact exactly £5.50, plus the price of a passport photo at your local post office in the UK, and you get it the same day when you go to the post office. So go pick it up, tell them you're going to Japan, they'll create this for you and stamp it away. Make sure you take that with you. We're going to be renting a car whilst we're in Fuji, and we're also doing the Tokyo karting, so we're going to need international driving permits. Now, one more thing, a couple more things actually, before you even leave the ground, to go to Japan, plan how you're going to get from the airport to your hotel. So for us, it's something like a 16-hour journey from door to door. That's just to the airport at Haneda Terminal 3 in Tokyo. You want to know how to get to your hotel, how you're going to get to your hotel before you leave the ground. You don't want to get to the airport and then start scrambling, trying to figure it out. Now, there are several options here, depending on where you're going in Tokyo. We want to do the limousine bus. It seems like it's the easiest option for us. However, unfortunately, the line in the limousine bus that goes to the area of Tokyo where we're staying, which is Akasaka, is actually out of service right now. So we're probably going to have to use the trains. And so I've mapped out the train journey from the airport to our hotel. It's one train and 2 undergrounds. Bit of a nightmare, which is why I wanted to get the bus, because the bus would have taken us, I think, within like 5 minutes of the hotel. But the limousine bus is out of service right now in the area of Tokyo where we're going. But we have a plan, and we know what our plan is. So make sure you have a plan if you're going to get the limousine bus to your area of Tokyo, if you're going to use the rail service and how you're going to do it and what trains you're going to need to get, or if you're going to get a taxi. But bear in mind that, for example, Narita Airport, which is not the airport we're going to Haneda, but Narita Airport can be an 1.5-hour drive from the centre of Tokyo. You get a taxi, that's going to prove very expensive. So I'm recommending you look at the rail option and the limousine bus options for getting between there and there. The next one is make bookings for any popular activities that you want to do. So, for example, you may have seen my video last week about booking the Pokemon Cafe. The Pokemon Cafe in Tokyo, and Osaka actually, books out in seconds. So I won't rehash the full process, but essentially your best bet is currently now to wait till 40 minutes past 6 p.m. Japanese time. So in the UK, that's currently 10:40 a.m. Refresh the booking page, at which point bookings that have unsuccessfully completed will become available, and then you can book your slot. That's your best chance. Don't try and go on at 10 a.m. UK or 6 p.m. Japan time. You just won't get on. The website will crash and it will fail for you. Because of the new processes, which are discussed on my other video, the best time is to go on a few minutes before 20 to the next hour. So 10:40, refresh, pick your slot, get booked in. You will not be able to get a slot at Pokemon Cafe if you just turn up on the day, or you might get very lucky, but it's extremely unlikely. Now, a place that we're not going to, but one of my colleagues who's actually going to be in Japan at a similar time to me, who says it's, again, really difficult to get booked into, is Universal Studios. I'm not going there, it's not part of our plan, but if you want to go to Super Mario Land or Harry Potter Land or these kind of things, it gets really busy and gets booked up really fast. And especially for like Super Mario Land, I believe you've got to actually like book a time slot, even once you get into Universal, to go into that area of Universal. So make sure you book Super Mario Land and Universal, if you're going there or planning to go there, well in advance. Other places that we've booked in advance, and I'll cover this in the What We're Going to Do session in more detail, things such as Tokyo Skytree, Team Labs Planets, Tokyo Karting, the Osaka Cup Noodle Museum, Mount Fuji paragliding, and hot springs in Hakone. Most places will let you book about 4 weeks in advance. Some are 30 days, some are 31 days, but give or take, it's a month in advance. You can book most of these things, but check on their website for details specifically. The final thing I wanted to cover about things you want to take with you, right? That you don't want to buy in Japan, but you want to take with you. So these are the other things that are on the table here. I've got my my Sony action cams. So we're taking 2 of these. I've had these for a long time. If you've been watching this channel for years, you'll recognize these potentially from my flying videos at Tayside Aviation. So we're taking 2 action cams. This is also a selfie stick. And I've got a bunch of other mounts for these cameras, like a chest harness and a head harness. So if you're doing any action or you want filming equipment, take your filming equipment with you. Action cams. A universal travel adapter plug. So something similar to this. We have 2 of these. Slightly different, but because this is older one and my other one's currently in use over there. But yeah, one has like multiple USBs in it. If you need USB-C, this one's got one on the side. You can get newer ones that have more USB-Cs on the top than USB-As. And these go to EU, UK, and US, Australia. Now the US Australia one also does Japan. All you have to do is tilt the plugs a little bit to the side, and that's your Japan plug there. So, universal travel adapter, because that way you can charge everything. If you need to plug anything in to charge, you've got a UK plug here. But for the most part, we're going to be charging everything using the USBs, and these are just really handy to have. I take this even when I travel around the UK for work, because having a USB charger and multi-adapter all in one is really cool. So we have 2 of these for our trip. And finally, nearly finally, is a travel battery. So again, we've got 2 of these, slightly different again. This is a newer one we just got. This is 25,000 milliamp hours and has 65 watt super fast charging from the USB-Cs. And I wanted that because we're going to be taking some high powered devices with us, right? For example, such as my Surface laptop, potentially the Nintendo Switch. We're also going to be plugging in a portable Wi-Fi when we get there. Those things, the battery we're told is not great. So if you want portable Wi-Fi when you're in Japan, you're going to want a secondary power source to keep that powered all day as you're walking around. I'll explain a bit more about that in a second, but take a battery pack with you and a means to charge it every night, such as a travel adapter. So yeah, other than that, I've got a couple of things here hiding behind the laptop, which is why I've forgotten about them. Hand sanitizer. You might remember this from my video 3 years ago. We still got it. Hand sanitizer, because some bathrooms in Japan, we're told through, again, like abroad in Japan, videos don't always have soap in them. You might just get water, or they might not even have a sink. So hand sanitizer for the bathrooms, but also, again, actually I should have taken it, we've got it in the suitcase. We've actually got soap, like sheets, they're like dry sheets that when you run under water, they turn into soap. So we've got some of those as well. But hand sanitizer and a pocket travel towel, because again, I was told on some videos that some bathrooms in Japan won't have hand dryers and won't even have towels. So a pocket towel, something you can carry with you, is great. Is because if it's going to be hot, you can wipe your sweat off, obviously one half of it, and you can use the other half to dry your hands after you've been to the bathroom. So again, we've got 2 of all of this, and so a pocket towel is handy because Japan apparently doesn't always give you towels in their bathrooms. Trying to hide naming and things like that because we're not sponsored by anything, but we picked it all up at outdoorsy shops in the UK. Okay, let's see what the chat is saying before we move on to the when you arrive section. See if there's any good questions or comments. Stuart Moyer asks, have you seen James May in Japan? Yes, I have. I've seen James May's Our Man in Japan at least 2 or 3 times. It's good. I enjoyed it. I recommend probably a better series, and again, don't know the guy from Adam, but Chris Broad's series on his channel Abroad in Japan called Journey Across Japan. He has several seasons of it now, and I enjoy that better than James May's series. Although James May's series was fun, it seems like this is more sort of fresh blood to me. So yeah, go and check out Journey Across Japan, and that's kind of what inspired the name of this video as well. Okay, so moving on. Whilst in Japan, when you arrive in Japan, one of the things, so there's a few things to bear in mind. To be able to exchange your Japan Rail Pass at the counter at Haneda Airport or Narita Airport, you do need to have a temporary visa stamp in your passport. So even aliens like us can apparently go through and use the automated gates at the airport instead of waiting to go to an immigration person. I don't recommend that, because if you do that, you don't get a stamp in your passport. It's all done electronically. Now, I believe there are potentially some people waiting around there for people who make this mistake. If you remember, you can catch them and ask for the stamp. You'll be fine. But if you forget, you could be in trouble, because once you get through immigration, there's no going back to immigration. And then if you go to the JR stand to exchange your voucher for your rail pass, if you don't have the temporary visitor stamp in your passport, you won't be able to exchange this. These rail passes are discounted until October anyway, for visitors only. So people who live or residents in Japan cannot use these, and so you have to have that temporary visitor stamp in your passport. So when you arrive at the airport, make sure you go to a person, either after you've gone through the automatic gate, but I don't recommend that, or wait in the queue to go to the human immigration officer and get your passport stamped. There was a second thing, I can't remember what it was now. There's a second thing. Oh, that's what it was. It was for duty free. So duty free and tax free. Certain things in Japan. Sorry, the fan on my laptop is going mental and blowing this money around. Certain things like duty free shops in Japan. So not just in the airport, like tax free and duty free at the airport, but certain shops in Japan will also honour duty free for those who have the temporary visitor stamp in their passport. So if you're spending, I think it's over like £50, on certain items, I'm not going to go into the whole tax law around it, you can get duty free. So you buy it at full price, and then you go to a counter somewhere in that shop, they'll actually give you the tax back. But they'll only give you that tax back if you've got the temporary visitor stamp in your passport. So when you arrive in Japan, get your passport stamped. The next thing obviously is go and get the rail pass exchanged. So go to the JR counter and exchange your exchange order for your rail pass. So our rail pass, we're going to have it activated on day 5 of our trip. So the first 4 days we're not going to have a rail pass. Now the reason that we're doing that is because actually the Tokyo local transport that is closest to our hotel is not actually covered by the Japan Rail Pass. So we can get more use out of it. We've got 21 days, activating it on day 5 and having it run through to day 26 for us, because that's how math works, to get us back to the airport, rather than activating it earlier and trying to use it in Tokyo, because we wouldn't get any use out of it. So we want to make the most use out of it, and we want to be able to use it up to the last Shinkansen and train journeys to the airport on the last day. So how are we going to get around when we're in Tokyo? It's a good question. Let's look back at some websites now, and I want to talk about Suica. So Suica and Passmo are, think of them like, again, if you're in the UK, think of these as Oyster cards in London. It's but with a bit more functionality. So these are cards that you can top up with some yen, and you can use them to swipe in and swipe out of the local train stations and underground stations and metro stations and all the rest of it. All the local transport, use them on buses. You can also use them to pay at vending machines, and you can use them to pay at some convenience or conveni stores. Now, there's a bit of a problem. On the 2nd of August, Suica and Passmo announced that they are discontinuing these cards from the automated machines at the airports and all across Tokyo. There are other IC cards, they're all called IC cards, that you can get across Japan, but I think they're all kind of discontinuing them because there's a microchip shortage right now in globally, and so they're struggling to make them. The good news is that the Welcome Suica and the Passmo alternative, which is the Passmo Passport, and these are pretty much the same thing, they're just different companies, right? And you can use them across all companies. So you can use the Suica on the Passmo things and Passmo on the Suica things. So it doesn't matter which one you get, but the Passmo Passport and the Welcome Suica are valid for 28 days, but you still can't get these at a machine at the airport. You have to go to a specific stand to pick them up. So I'm talking about Haneda because that's our trip. We're going to Haneda Airport. The Welcome Suica you pick up at the monorail station in Terminal 3 at the JR stand. Or the Passmo Passport, you would go to the rail station. So not the monorail station, but the actual train station at Terminal 3. And you can go to, I guess there's a Passmo stand there, and you can pick up the Passmo Passport. Both of these are valid for 28 days. You can still top them up and treat them the same way as the standard Suica cards. However, you cannot get any refund for any money that's left on them at the end, like you could have with a standard Suica card, with the green one. And so, yeah, basically, if we'd have money topped up on them, we'll be spending it all across Japan and using it in vending machines and things like this. What we would do basically at the airport before we get on the plane is we'll just blow that money on vending machines or in a 7-Eleven or Family Mart or something like that, and just blow it till there's basically nothing left. And then we'll take the card home as a souvenir. So hopefully we can still get one of these cards when we get to Japan, and that they won't just discontinue the Welcome Suica and Passmo Passport altogether. But that's the benefit, and if you are looking at going to Japan, then be aware that this changed 4 days ago now. Sorry, I was planning on doing this stream on Saturday. 4 days ago this changed. And so things are changing all the time. And that's kind of one more thing to kind of just bear in mind. Between now and your trip, stay up to date with the news, follow some Japan tubers or Japan YouTubers, whatever you want to call them. Just stay up to date with the things that are changing. As I say, Pokemon Cafe changed how they made bookings the day I was making my booking. Suica has now changed how you get the Welcome Suica. So just stay up to date with how you're doing things. The next thing I wanted to talk about is I mentioned it, and it's the wireless, portable wireless. It's essentially a SIM card in a little device that acts as a mini router that you take with you, and you can Wi-Fi connect, typically, say, up to 5 devices to it. We are using Ninja Wi-Fi, and we got a 20% discount for using... Well, we actually used a discount code, which is literally the word MEN, M-E-N, that I found online. But when I was recommending this to a friend the other day, that discount code... There wasn't a place in the Ninja Wi-Fi application process to actually put the code in anymore. So what I'm recommending now, if you want 20% off and using Ninja Wi-Fi, is to go to Tokyo Cheapo's website. And so type in Tokyo Cheapo, Ninja Wi-Fi, and then you'll go to their website and then click on the link from there to take you back to the Ninja Wi-Fi website. You'll get 20% off your booking. Again, I think they get a commission. I get nothing. I'm just trying to help you save some money. Anyway, the idea here is that we will put our phones on airplane mode, apart from Wi-Fi when we're in Japan. We'll take our UK SIM cards out, so we won't have access to our UK phone numbers, and then we will hotspot them to a portable Wi-Fi device, such as the Ninja Wi-Fi, and that's how we'll get internet as we go around Japan. I could talk about why we chose Ninja Wi-Fi, but basically I did a bunch of research, and the mobile network that it connects to, I'm told, has the most solid connection across most of the Golden Route in Japan, which is where we're going to be. And so, yeah, pocket Wi-Fi, something to bear in mind. You can get SIM cards as well when you get there for your phone if you want to have a phone number that you can actually phone from or not, but we're actually going to be using Skype for that. So through the Microsoft 365, self-plug, what I do in my day job, you get 60 minutes of international calling through Skype. So if we've got Wi-Fi, we've got internet, then we can use Skype to make calls when we're there, and we'll just use our free 60 minutes. So that's another little hack for you. If you have a 365 subscription, use your Skype minutes. Okay, and that covers everything to do when you arrive at the airport. So now we're going to move on to what to do whilst you're in Japan, or what we're going to do whilst we're in Japan, rather. Again, I'm kind of doing this as a informational video, but based on how we're doing things in Japan. And you'll see there's a bunch of links now that I'll be sharing with you. But let me just quickly check the chat. Again, I can't see everything on this one screen, so I have to keep going back and forth. Okay, no more questions in the chat just now. Cool. Just now. Oh, didn't mean to do that. Sorry if you get any feedback. Okay, so whilst in Japan, always carry your passport. This is my first tip, and again, based on what I've seen and things like this. The Japanese police are allowed to stop you at any time and ask you to provide identification. And if you don't, you can get yourself in trouble. If you refuse to cooperate with them, you can get yourself in trouble. Whatever. Carry your passport. I know it seems literally foreign to us in the UK to carry your passport, or to even have to carry some sort of ID around with you all the time, even though most of us do carry our driver's license around with us most of the time. But carry your passport with you. Always have your ID with you, because the police can stop you at any time and ask to check for ID. I don't know if it happens very often, but it can, so just do it. We are planning to wake up early almost every day. Again, the advice is during the busy times of the year, like we're going to be there, August, September, get up early to avoid crowds. Now, not everything will be open until, say, 8 or 9 o'clock, but if you're going to places that are shrines, that are, say, open 24/7, some of them, and you don't necessarily want to go inside, you just want to go to the shrine, take some pictures, maybe do a prayer or something like that, then the earlier you get there, the better, because things start to get busy around 9 o'clock when things actually open up. So if you want to avoid rush hour on the trains, rush hour on the underground, anything like that, get up early. Hell, leave your hotel between 6 and 7 a.m. Don't be on trains between about 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. is what I've been told, because it gets super busy. So you want to get to your location that you're going to, at least the first thing you're doing in the day, probably before 7 o'clock in the morning. That's a good tip, and what we're planning to do. So it's going to be early starts for us, which again, bear in mind, Japan is 7 hours ahead of us. So 7 a.m., which would be when we need to get to our location, would be 11 p.m. UK time. So whilst Daniela is used to getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning for her work, UK time, she's essentially going to be getting up when she normally goes to bed for this trip. So that'll be interesting. I stay up late in the evenings, so I should be okay for the first few days anyway. I'll probably get knackered because of all the walking and stuff, but I'm usually up till about 1, 2 o'clock in the morning anyway most days. So it'll just be a case of staying up later. It'll actually be harder for me to try to go to sleep in the afternoon than it'll be for me to be awake in the UK evening time. So how much money per day are we taking with us? How much spending money are we allowing ourselves? And things like this, I'm going to cover this. So we're allowing ourselves £100 each per day for spending money. That includes all food, access to minor attractions, and to buy gifts and souvenirs. Minor attractions, my definition of that is anything we haven't had to pre-book because it's so popular that I've had to book it a month in advance. Rough budget might be £50 for food, £30 for an activity, and £20 for gifts and souvenirs per day. Something like that is probably how it's going to break down. The minimum recommendation that I saw online was 10,000 yen a day. So, yeah, that's about £60 again, £55, £60 per day is the recommendation. I'm just going to knock the noise down a little bit because I notice I'm peaking. So on top of that, so if do some simple math, 26 days, 2 people, £100 a day, £5,200. That's just spending money. On top of that, for the activities that we've booked in advance, we've spent about another £800 on top of that. Now, bear in mind, we're going for a month, and it's a holiday. It's going to be expensive. And I'm exposing this to the internet for everyone to see. Some people might not be willing to share that kind of information, but I want you to understand how much things cost. I'm not going to break down everything, but yeah, that's roughly, for all the activities that we're doing. The major activities are coming to about £800 total. Now, we're going to withdraw money via ATMs when you're there. You can do that through 7-Eleven. Has ATMs, and they have... so you can withdraw Japanese yen from ATMs at 7-Eleven stores. There is a 100,000 yen maximum transaction that you can take out per transaction, and I believe per day the ATMs will limit you to 500,000 yen. Now, we're not going to take out that in one day. So again, based on our budget, 100,000 yen is going to be, about £1,000? No, 1,000 to 500, say 600, round up, say £600, give or take. £600 is 3 days. So every 3 days we're going to have to take out 100,000 yen after we spend the money we have already from the ATMs, just for our spending money. But that's how we're planning on doing it, so we don't have to carry around too much money in cash whilst we're there, because as much as Japan has one of the lowest crime rates in the world, I'm just not willing to risk it. So you can withdraw money from 7-Eleven, and that's what we'll be doing there. Our hotels, over the 26 nights that we'll be staying there, have averaged about £70 a night, although bear in mind we booked those back in March. So because of inflation, because the currency, the yen, has shrunk, because supply and demand now, I'm finding that if you want to book now, and I did look earlier today, it's probably going to cost you about an average of £110 a night now, so about 50% more than we paid. But yeah, on average, we're paying about £70 a night for the hotels that we booked back in March. So my advice is, if you want to get into hotels that are not sold out and not going to charge you over the odds, book well in advance. Book at least 3 months in advance, if not 6 months in advance, if you can, to take advantage of some savings. And finally, I want to talk about car rental. We're going to be renting a car for 4 days around Mount Fuji, because it's just going to be easier to do that than using public transport, because lots of buses and train changes, and I just wasn't comfortable with the stress of all of that around Mount Fuji. So we're renting a car, and because I'm too proud to drive one of the small tiny box cars in Japan, I went for like the class 2 car instead of the class 1 car. It's costing us £62.50 a day on average to rent the car, but you can get it as cheap as £40 a day to rent, and that's pretty good, I would say. £40 a day to rent a car in Japan. We're going to get something a bit nicer. I think it's either going to be like a Mazda 3 or a Subaru Impreza, because I did not want to drive a box car around Japan. Okay, so now we get onto the bit that you're probably interested in, and it's the what are we going to be doing on our trip, where are we going, and what are the major activities. So let's jump into that. Well, so we'll start off this section by showing you a map of where we're going to be going in Japan. So I kind of mapped it all out. Let me just check on Streamlabs. This is showing. Yep. Okay, I'm blocking it, so I need to put it up there. That's probably going to look better. Yeah, okay. This will be interesting. So, we're on the mainland in Japan. We're not going to be going up to the Hokkaido, and we're not going to be going down to Kyushu or Shikoku. We're going to be staying on the mainland, apart from when we go to Miyajima Island. So I'll zoom in a bit, and again I'll try and move it up to avoid my face on the camera here, so hopefully you can see this. I'll just double check. Yeah. Okay, you can't really see where we're starting now. Who's that? That's good. Okay, so we are starting at Tokyo, and we will be in the middle of our time at Tokyo. We'll go up to Nikko. Then we're heading all the way down to Hiroshima, and then over to it's called Itsukushima here, but it's also called Miyajima Island. Then we'll go back to Hiroshima, up to Osaka, then over to Kyoto. Then when we're staying in Kyoto, we're going to do a day trip over to Nara. And then we're over to Fuji, Sorry, I've missed one. I've missed Nagoya. We're going to Nagoya. I should add that in. Nagoya. Sorry if you can hear my laptop. It sounds like it's taking off. We'll be going to Nagoya. So you can now see it's added in there. Then we'll be going to Fuji, which is up here. And then from Fuji back up to Haneda Airport. And so, what are we going to be doing at each of these places? What's the kind of key activities we're going to be doing at each of these places, and why are we going there? What's the points of interest? So, in Tokyo, and these are in no particular order. I'm not kind of releasing when we're going to be going to places or the specific order we're doing things in. I'm just kind of calling out activities that we are doing in each location. So in Tokyo, we will be going to the Skytree. The Skytree is an observation tower, but it also has a restaurant in it if you want to go there. We're not going to the restaurant, but we will be going to both observation tower decks. So there's a lower deck and an upper deck. I'm hoping this laptop doesn't overheat and stop streaming, so if it does, I apologise. First time using this new setup. But also, so if you don't want to go to the restaurant, there is a cafe. So we're going to go to Tokyo Tower on the day that we're going in the morning, and we're going to go to the cafe for breakfast. Then we're going to look at the two viewpoints, and then that will be the end of Tokyo Skytree visit for us. But yeah, it's you'll have seen some similar sort of TV towers in Berlin. There's loads of these sort of viewpoint towers all over the place, right? In many countries of the world. So we'll be doing that in the morning. But what we did is we actually booked this as a combo ticket. There's many options for combo tickets, but you have to do both activities in the same day. So the combination ticket that we decided to go with was to go with it's a matcha, which I believe is a special kind of Japanese tea. Someone's going to tell me I'm wrong in the comments if I'm wrong. A matcha and Japanese sweet making experience. So once we're done with Skytree, we'll go over to Asakusa, and we will be doing drinking some matcha that we made for us in the traditional way, and then we will be creating and eating some Japanese sweeties. So that'll be fun, getting our hands on and actually doing some cooking and prep and stuff like that. And then the next thing that we will be doing, major activity, is the Pokemon Cafe. So again, I've talked about this a lot. Pokemon Cafe is a Pokemon themed cafe, I say in Tokyo and in Osaka, and yeah, you can see some examples here. I can't actually get on the website because I'm not on my Japanese VPN, which would slow the stream right down. You have to be in the Japanese VPN to go onto the Pokemon Cafe website itself, which is why a lot of the previews I'm showing you here in pictures are just from Google Pictures, because I don't want to go into the VPN. But as you can see, all the food is Pokemon themed. So you can get like I think it's like an Eevee burger or a Pikachu waffle, I think. There seems to be some sort of Pikachu rice there, so maybe that's a Pikachu katsu curry or something. If I click on this one, you can kind of see that, yeah, you get like Pikachu in the rice format, and then you get that looks like a katsu chicken, yeah. Or you can get like an Eevee burger type thing. And they have desserts, they have Pokemon themed drinks, and it's attached to the Pokemon shop as well, so Pokemon Center. I've played, I was going to take it for the stream, but I didn't, I forgot. I've played every Pokemon game from literally Red, the first one on my Game Boy Color that we purchased when I was in America, when I was, I want to say 11. It was primary 7 anyway. 11 or 12, I got a Game Boy Color. I still have it, and I still have Pokemon Red. And I have played one version of every Pokemon edition that has come out since then. My girlfriend, Daniela, she's watched, I'm pretty sure, all, if not most, of the Pokemon animated series. So we both have a history with Pokemon. We're not, like, the house is not full of Pokemon stuff. As you can see, Firefly posters, right? But we like Pokemon. It's been part of our lives for a long time, and so Pokemon Cafe and Pokemon themed food. We don't expect it to be the best food, but it's something that we really wanted to do. So, moving on, Team Labs Planets is next. So some people may or may not have heard of this. Team Labs Planets is the only Team Lab Centre that's currently open. I'm probably going to be told I'm wrong about that as well. I think the new one is opening again soon, but they closed down. There was another Team Labs Centre. Anyway, essentially it's digital art. So there's several rooms that you go through. It's an Instagrammer's palace or wet dream, I guess. You go into these rooms, a bunch of other folk in the same rooms, but as people move around, you actually impact the art. So if you touch something, then the art will change. If you walk through, I think there's like a wet area, so you have to roll your trousers up and walk through the wet area. You're kind of getting immersed in water, but you're also, again, impacting the art. So there's some examples here where, again, if you're lucky enough there's probably a big queue in each of these rooms to get the Instagram picture, which is, how you get these pictures. So you're not got the whole place to yourself. There's going to be hundreds of people in there with you, but it's digital art. This is probably more realistic. You can see a bunch of people in the same room, or this one here. And as you interact with it, and move around the room, the art will change. And so Team Last Planets is something we're kind of looking forward to. And as you can see, it's going to be fun. So we've pre-booked this as well. So all the things I'm calling out, most of them anyway, we have pre-booked. This is what I'm calling the major events, major activities. And we will be doing other things that are not major activities as well as we go round. So the next one is Tokyo Karting. As I say, absolutely no affiliation with Nintendo or Mario Kart. Nothing to do with them. Don't sue me or them, Nintendo. But essentially, you can rent a go-kart. You get to dress up in a funny costume. And as long as you have your international driving permit that we talked about, you get to follow as a crew and drive a go-kart around the streets of Tokyo. And over the Rainbow Bridge, which I'm guessing, but I don't know, is perhaps where the Rainbow Road is inspired by in Mario Kart, the game. So you get to drive over Rainbow Bridge. There's 3 or 4 different locations that you can do this from. We are doing it from Tokyo Bay because it's the 2-hour experience. I think the other ones are only 1-hour experiences, and I wanted the 2-hour experience. We're also going in the evening because I want to experience sunset and then driving around Tokyo at night time. And you can absolutely bet we're going to be using our action cameras for this, so we'll be filming it and making some videos when we return from some of these activities. I don't think we'll live stream that, but we might. And the final major activity we're going to be doing in Tokyo is the Yakutabun cruise. So there's a number of these different sort of traditional Japanese boats. You can rent a place on it. It takes you down one of the rivers in Tokyo or under a bunch of the bridges. They'll provide food for you. There's a number of different price points as well. So I think I just searched Yakutabun cruise and there was a company that came up. You tell them what your budget is, what date you want to go, and what time you want to go at, things like this, and they then find a boat for you. So the boat we're going on, as it's in the sunset to evening time. It's a good meal we're going for, so it's a traditional Japanese meal, presented with all the little bowls and everything, kind of thing, and whatever, all that. And it's all you can drink. So I expect Daniela's going to have to carry me back to the hotel after that one. But I probably shouldn't get too drunk because the very next day we get up early and we're off to Hiroshima. Okay, so Nikko is one of the places we're going to do a day trip to from Tokyo, and the key thing to do there is to see this shrine. I only found this today. This is called the Toshogu, I don't know, Toshogu Shrine. Basically in Nikko we will be doing a bunch of shrines. And seeing the touristy area there. This is one of them. There's several here. You can see some examples of that. I believe they're all located fairly close together, but again, if you sort of look at this picture, it does get busy. So, but a day trip out to Nikko just to break up the Tokyo stay, and also we're going to do it on the first day that our Japan Rail Pass activates, so we'll be able to use the Japan Rail Pass. And again, make the most out of the money we spent on that. So we can use JR trains to go over to Nikko. So then, we're down to Hiroshima after that. And Hiroshima, we were doing the Hiroshima Peace Memorial. So some of you may or may not know, but today is actually the anniversary of the atomic bomb that got dropped on Hiroshima. I was watching a live stream from Only in Japan Go, and he was live streaming from there this morning in Japan time, and there's a whole ceremony going on today to commemorate the bomb. But again, I don't want to give bad history, but I believe this building actually was one of the few buildings that survived the bomb, and that's why it's now in a gated area to be preserved and things like this. But it's also paired with a Peace Memorial Park, which is obviously near it, very, very near it. In fact, you can see it in this image just in the middle there. You can see the memorial and the dome through this. So the Memorial Park is there, which is obviously a newer area that's been rebuilt, and the dome stands as a message to history, I guess. So this is the key thing we'll be doing in Hiroshima. And then we'll be going over to, on the second day, we'll be going over to Miyajima Island, which is a cruise, and we'll be going over to look at the shrine and everything else over there. So that's our Hiroshima trip. Then we'll be coming up to Osaka. But let me take a quick break and see if there's anything in the chat. Oh, this one. Have we had a new subscriber? Have I missed something? As far as I can see, there's no new subscribers. So, no treats for Lucky tonight. To America was 1999. Really? I was 9? I thought, okay, I must have been 9 years old. I was sure I was in primary 7 at the time. Who knows? Anyway, yeah, and I see Lucky's here, and Lucky's messaging. No, Lucky's, actual Lucky's in a different room. He's not here with us right now. If we do get any new subscribers, Lucky will get his treats. So, let's continue. So, we're going to the Cup Noodle Museum in Osaka, and the reason I've gone to the actual website is because there's a number of activities you can do here, and there's 2 that you have to reserve a place for. So we've reserved a place for the Chicken Ramen Factory. So you actually get to knead, spread, and steam the flour all yourself, and you get to make your own chicken ramen. So I don't think it's that expensive. I think it's like 2,000 yen or something like that to do this. You don't pay it in advance, but you do have to reserve your space in advance. So we've reserved our space for doing that. Then you can, create your own noodle pack. So I think they give you like a blank packet, and you can color it and design it yourself, and then put in noodles and one of their predetermined sauces, and so you can make your own cup noodles there. And then we'll kind of just go around the rest of the museum. So this was something that Daniela wanted to do, and I'm not much of a cup noodle fan myself, but it should be a fun experience. If we can do any filming in here, we will. If we can't, then we won't. But the main purpose of the trip is not to make YouTube content, but we're going to do our best to do some live streams for you, and to get some filmed content that we can then make videos for at a later date when we come back. The other thing, or one of the other things we're doing in Osaka, is there's a famous cheesecake. So this is called Rikuro's cheesecake, and you have to go to their shop. They make some ridiculous number of these every day. I think they sell them for like 600 or 700 yen, so like £3 or £4. You get a whole cheesecake, and we're gonna go and grab a cheesecake. Osaka's all about food, by the way, and it is. It's known as Japan's kitchen. So our whole time in Osaka is about eating food, getting drunk, and going to a cup noodle museum. So we'll be doing this, getting our cheesecake on, and then we will go and find some okonomiyaki. There's 2 types of okonomiyaki. There's Osaka style and Hiroshima style. We're going to try to get both. I can't really tell you what the differences are. Watch Abroad in Japan's video about that. He's got tons of them. There's 2 different kinds. It's basically a savoury pancake with a bunch of vegetables and things thrown on the top. And it's like, well, when in Japan, have Japanese food. So yeah, Hiroshima and Osaka will be going and looking for okonomiyaki, and I'll have to learn how to speak Japanese. After Osaka, we move on to Kyoto. And so one of the key things we'll be doing in Kyoto is there's a monkey park. So in the morning of the day that we're going to the monkey park, there's actually another cruise we're going to get, another boat we're going to get on that's further up the river. We're going to go there, try and get on the earliest when we can. I think it's a 9 a.m. start. There's no reservations, first come, first serve. But where it ends is actually really near the monkey park. So we're going to get off that cruise probably around about 11 o'clock in the morning, go to the monkey park, spend some time there, and try not to have our stuff stolen, because I believe they're like really good thieves. And then after that, we will go up to the bamboo forest, because it doesn't have a closing time. The bamboo forest is open 24/7, and so we'll do the bamboo forest. And that's going to basically be one of the days in Kyoto. Yeah, so those key items there. Monkey Park. There is a few animal things we're doing in Japan. We're not doing Cat Cafe, we're not doing Guinea Pig Cafe, but we are going to do Monkey Park, and I'm coming on to one in Nagoya, which is a pig cafe. Okay, so Fushimi Shrine, everybody knows the Fushimi Shrine. Another thing we'll be doing in Kyoto, again, this gets really busy with people, but again, I'm told if you go further up the path, because it's actually quite a long pathway, you can get quieter if you want to get your Instagram shots or video or record something up it. But you have to be willing to go further up the path. Most people give up, like say a quarter of the way along it, they try and get their pictures and then they go back down. So we've dedicated a day to this area of Japan to go and see this this pathway and the shrines that are nearby it. And I guess we'll just keep walking until we can get some nice pictures and stuff there. But this is one of the things that you would think of if you think of Japan. You know, you're thinking of Fushimi Shrine. It's a very touristy location. Another day we're going to spend is in Gion, in Kyoto. So Gion is very much traditional Japan, as you might see it in the movies and things like this. It's still the wooden houses, and you'll still see the women in their kimonos and stuff. I'm going to get this wrong. I want to say geishas. Geishas, is that right? And so Daniela wants to do a kimono day as well. So the day that we're in Gion, we're going to try and rent kimonos for a few hours anyway, and go around and get some nice pictures there, and also then go and look at the geishas and speak to them and do all that kind of stuff. All the traditional stuff in Gion. So again, we'll probably do a live stream from Gion, and I want to do, there's a Gion night walking tour that I want to do, because I believe it's really nice at night. So we'll be spending all day there. Again, I'll show you some pictures just so you can get an idea of what Gion is like. Okay. So then, one of our days in Kyoto, we're going to take a day trip out to Nara, which is nearby. I believe, I could be wrong, I believe it used to be like an important city. It might be in the capital at some point. But anyway, we're going to Nara. Don't quote me on the facts. This is not a history video. This is a what I'm doing in Japan video. And in Nara, we're going to be going to the deer park. So there's deer that there's a big deer park that you can go into. You can feed the deer. Apparently, they will bow in front of you, and they will keep eating your food until you run out. So it's like, don't be scared. Just keep feeding them, and then when you're done, they'll leave you alone. But it's like, yeah, don't harass them, because if you do harass them, they will attack you. But for the most part, I'm told they're kind and gentle, and it should be fine. So we're going to go to the deer park, and then we're also going to go over to look at the bronze Buddha in Nara. And I believe this is one of, if not the largest bronze Buddha in Japan. And it's close enough to the deer park that we can do both of these in the same day. So we're doing the big bronze Buddha in Japan. In Nara. Once we're done with that, we'll be done basically with Kyoto as well. We'll then go on to Nagoya. As in Nagoya, the key thing we're doing, really this is our break. Break couple of days, because Nagoya is more of a business city, and we didn't know that when we booked the hotel there. There are a couple of theme parks you can go to nearby, but Dana's not really into theme parks, so it's kind of like, yeah, we might, probably not. But she wants to go to the My Pig Cafe, and so there's these mini pigs that you go to the cafe, you sit down, you have to buy a coffee or some sort of drink each, at least one. You pay for the time you want to be in there. They'll put a blanket over your legs, and then they'll bring pigs to you. You're not allowed to essentially chase them or pick them up or things like that. Basically, you've got to let them come to you, and if they want to go free, they've got to let it go free. It's a twist on the cat cafe idea. It's a pig cafe, and Dana wants to go, and it should be interesting. So we had nothing better to do in Nagoya, so we're doing pig cafe, and it's something different again, right? It's something different that other people might not do. Once we're done in Nagoya, we're heading over to Fuji, and this will be our final stop before we finish in Japan. And so Fuji, we have 4 days there, and it's going to be full on. We should probably look back at a map of Fuji to kind of give you an idea of what's going on here. So the map here of Fuji's down here, where we start in the mountains there. The first day, we will be doing Hakone, which is over here, probably right behind my head. So I'll put that up here. We're going to go over to Hakone, and we're going to try to go to a hot spring there. So rent a private hot spring. So you may or may not know, but the hot springs in Japan are a real nightmare to book, or to find any actually, because if you're from the UK, you're probably a bit of a prude. You probably don't want to go naked in an onsen with a bunch of strangers. Which is the typical thing you do in the public bath in Japan. It's a naked onsen. So they're generally split by gender, and it's like, well, I don't really want to share a bath with a bunch of dudes. So to get a private onsen, most of the time you have to book a ryokan, which is like a traditional Japanese inn that would have a private onsen bath attached to it. We don't want to pay the crazy prices for that, plus we're not staying in an area that has that. Thirdly, even a lot of these private and public onsens won't allow you to use them if you have tattoos. Some will allow you to have tattoos if you cover them up, and some will not. Tattoos are seen as being gang symbols in Japan, and so you're still not really allowed to go into onsens and things like that with them. It's not because it damages the water, it's because they don't want to upset other people who might think you have a gang symbol on you. We have found an onsen in the Hakone area that we can book a private room for just a couple of hours, so we don't have to book a whole hotel. So we can just do it to do the onsen bathing together in a natural hot spring, and have no problems. But it was an absolute nightmare to find one that would let you do that. So if you've got tattoos, you might want to skip onsens. If you want a private one and you don't want to book a hotel like a ryokan, you might want to skip it. It's all nightmare. If you're in the Fuji area, if you're in the Hakone area, there are a few private baths, and I see the one I'm going to call out is this one here. The website is Hakone Yuryo, Yuryo, Hakone Yuryo, and they have a number of different private baths for two or four people, and you can book them by 2-hour slots. So we have to book this a month in advance, so we can't quite book this yet because I think it's around the 16th-ish we want to be there, 16th of September. So we have to book that around the 16th of August. But you can just turn up and try your luck here. You don't have to book this in advance. I don't think it's going to book out, but again, I'll let you know when I try to book it how busy it is. I'll be using some of my 365 minutes to call them and try and do that, and that'll be fun because they probably won't speak any English. But anyway, so yes, Hakone Yuryo is where we'll be doing our private hot spring bathing, and that'll be day 1 in Fuji, so over on the right side of the mountain. You could say east, but Japan is funny about how they define north, east, southwest. So then the second day in Fuji, we'll actually be going over to we'll call it the west of the mountain, up somewhere about here, about halfway up here, and this is where the paragliding site is. So we'll be doing paragliding. 2 seconds. Apologies, had to deal with Lucky wanted to come and join us. So the second day around Fuji, we will be on the completely off my path now, on the west, because we'll do paragliding. I'm going to be doing a solo paraglide off a small hill plus a tandem bigger paraglide, and Dana's just doing the tandem paraglide around there. So that will be day 2. Day 3, we're going to be going up to the pagoda. So I do have some pictures of paragliders. This is what paragliding looks like around Mount Fuji. So hopefully we get a clear day for it, and you'll be able to see Mount Fuji, or we'll be able to see Mount Fuji from paragliding. And again, action cameras will be getting the footage of that. Just want to check you can hear me now, because I did mute myself very briefly. Okay. So yeah, then day 3 we're going to go over to the Churito Pagoda. So this is what you'll see on my thumbnail for this video, and also if you think of like Japan, this is basically the picture you see in every brochure, right? It's the Churito Pagoda. So we're going to go over there. I believe it's quite a long walk up a hill to get there from where you can park. So that might be half a day's experience by itself. Assuming we have time after that, we will do the Fuji 5 lakes, or we'll try to hit as many of them as possible. And the Fuji 5 lakes, so the pagoda is up here. And then the 5 lakes are around the top of the mountain. So we will go and have a look at these 5 lakes as well. And then we have to find something to do on the morning of the last day in Fuji before we get our hotel up to... so our train back to the hotel in Tokyo Haneda, where we're staying at the hotel airport overnight before we fly back home. And one thing I might try to convince Daniela to let us do, but she may not be up for it, is the Fuji Q Highland theme park, which is the second largest theme park in Japan and has some really fun looking roller coasters. But I don't know after the paragliding if she'll be too shook up to actually do that or not. And with that, that's basically a whirlwind tour within just over an hour of what we'll be doing in Japan. I hope it's given you some ideas as to things you can do in Japan, things to remember to take with you, things to do at the airport, planning, all the rest of it. So now I'm going to look at the chat and see if there's any questions. We want the Q&A before we finish the stream. So no, the geisha is the woman wearing the traditional dress. The traditional dress, I believe, is called the kimono. So answers that. Will there be any cherry cheese blossom when you're there? No, I don't believe so. I don't think we have any cherry blossoms right now. Cherry blossoms are typically in the spring, so they tend to get earlier every year now, but say late February through to early April is when we get the cherry blossoms. So no, we'll probably be catching the start of autumn, where the leaves will start to be changing colour towards the end of September anyway. As we get towards October, we'll be getting autumn colours, so the leaves will be turning brown, and I believe that's another beautiful time to see Japan, is in the autumn. And you know, if it wasn't for the fact that Japan had been locked down for the last 3 years, it would have been a bit quieter, because most people would be going during cherry blossom season earlier in the year, and then we'd be going this time of year. I'm not sure if it's going to be hot, or I'm not sure if it's going to be torrential rain, because what I'm hearing is that we are in the middle of typhoon season, but also it's summer. So it could be extremely hot, say for a couple of days, and then extremely rainy on the weather. But no, there'll be no cherry blossoms whilst we're there. I'll give the chat another couple of minutes to see if there's any more questions from subscribers. So only subscribers can post in the chat. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and subscribe. Once you've subscribed for a minute, you can then post a question in the chat. And what I'll do whilst I'm waiting to see if there's any more questions or comments or feedback on the stream is I'll just talk about a couple of things that arrived today that I haven't even really had a chance to unbox and play with yet, but that we will be using when we're in Japan. So we're going to be planning to do some live streams when we're in Japan, and we went and purchased this DJI wireless mic setup. I'll do a proper unboxing and review of these over the next week or so, and we'll take a demo of these probably on our live stream next weekend. So this is the DJI mic setup. There's 2 microphones and 1 receiver. They plug into anything, Android, iOS phones, and also into any DSLR camera you might have. And they were really well rated by YouTubers who do vlogging and things like this out on the go. So new mic set for live streams, and we'll be using some live streams whilst we're in Japan. The second thing that we got to support our live streams in Japan, this is the Hohem iSteady M6 gimbal. And so this will hold a reasonable sized mobile phone, and it will create smooth videos and allow us to do gimbal shots that, you know, if you're holding the phone in your hand, maybe get a shaky shot, the gimbal will stabilize a lot of that out, and you know, able to just do better live streaming. Or if we want to, say, set up the phone on a table or something in front of us, and we want to kind of sit back and just have it keep us in the shot, then a gimbal will do that for us whilst we're live streaming. So again, I'll be doing an unboxing. I might even just unbox both of them together on a video, and I'll be doing a kind of first impressions and setup of that. The plan is that next Saturday we will be going to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in Edinburgh, obviously, and we will do a test of our live streaming setup plans for Japan, e.g. live streaming over a mobile network using our phones, using all that equipment. We'll be doing that from Edinburgh next Saturday, or this Saturday coming, depending on how you look at it. So that was the final thing I wanted to show on the stream. I can see that there are no additional questions coming in the chat. So with that, yeah, we will see you next Saturday. We will be live streaming in Japan, and yeah, thanks for watching and have a great day.